All right, welcome back to another one of our math technology training videos. It's been a little while because the holiday break and everything, but last things we talked about were on the Inspire handheld, and we did some algebra on it, we did some graphing on it, and I'm going to change gears today, and we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do some geometry stuff, and there's a lot of really slick geometry software out there. But before we get into that, I just wanted to point out too, the last couple things posted on the website are from the November and from the December trainings with Dr. Hyatt. You'll see those are posted for your reference, or for whatever reason, if you missed them and need to rewatch those. But we're going to talk about some geometry stuff. And one of my favorite geometry programs is Geometry Sketchpad. I was kind of raised on this one as a teacher, and I was really excited about it. If you've never seen it, it enables you to do, it's kind of built on doing compass and straight edge constructions, which I was always a fan of. I thought they're really slick. It was a little hobby of mine. And it enabled you to draw lines and circles and translate your figures and do everything with complete exactness, like compass and straight edge constructions called for, instead of just eyeballing things. But it was a really cool way to explore different properties of shapes and polygons, and you could build everything right from their definitions. Unfortunately, though, we're not going to talk about Geometry Sketchpad. The program isn't free, and so it's just not as common everywhere. Some of you might have it, some schools might have it. You might find an old disk buried somewhere in somebody's filing cabinet. But instead, we're going to use GeoGebra. And this software is free. You can get it anywhere. You can download it and load it on your computer. There's a GeoGebra app that's very convenient to use. So we're going to do it on this. And if you notice, it kind of looks the same. We're going to build some shapes and explore their properties dynamically, and we can look at them. So if you've ever seen Geometry Sketchpad, GeoGebra is much the same thing. And this is what we're going to look at today. So advantage is it's a free one. Still a little bit more fan of Sketchpad. I like how it lays out. And GeoGebra, though, has a lot of powerful algebra tools built in. It can do quite a bit, far more than we're ever going to get into. And we're just going to look at geometry-based stuff. We're not going to get into too much with the graphing and algebra capabilities of it. But if you want to get your hands on it, not hard, just the old-fashioned way, just right through Google, GeoGebra, kind of like geo and algebra put together. And the website does have some tutorials and stuff, but they're downloads. You can see you can get the computer version, a tablet version, and there's some clever ways of loading things you've made on one to the other. So if you want to get this for desktop, there we go. So the window's right here. Now, using this in your classroom, it kind of depends on you and your class. I've used this a lot of different ways. I'm probably most often use it as a demonstration tool where I'm able to have the shape and I want to show the kids that all the diagonals of a rectangle bisect each other. And we're gonna build some of the things to look at these properties. But in an actual classroom setting, it's nice to show the students. You can show them what happens dynamically with all the properties. You can build the properties. You can build the shapes based on the properties and show them from there. Now you can, it just depends on the school. I've had schools where we had sets of Chromebooks, or maybe some of your kids have tablets or smart devices, and they can do a lot of the stuff on those. It just kind of depends on what the school has, how the kids are. I wouldn't turn every one of my classes loose in a computer lab and try and get them to do this. But kids have a knack for technology, and so it might be stuff you're willing to show them. So we're going to go through some things and build things right from scratch. So I preface all of this with that, just to let you know, this may not be something you use in your classroom, might be something you're building for yourself. It's kind of up to you where your kids are at, what kind of resources you have in your building. But so if you go to their website and you download the program and we get it loaded, you're going to open up a blank page. Well, let me get a new one just to show you. We'll start nice and fresh. Now you can toggle an axis is on and off. So by right-clicking, you can toggle a grid, you can toggle an axis. Now, since we're not going to do a lot of algebra-based things with equations, now we could do all of our shapes based on functions and equations, but we're not going to do that, so these are really just going to kind of be in the way. I want to just, I just want a blank canvas to build from. Okay, now you have this toolbar on the top, and these are all of the geometry tools that we're going to use to build our shapes and design our things on this canvas right here. So you have a point tool, and you'll notice these little arrows down on the bottom. These little arrow pieces down on the bottom on the toolbar, and that'll pull out a larger menu for you by clicking on every one of those. So if you want to do a point, click on the point tool. Now, this is what might drive you crazy, and I have a habit of running into this problem. Whatever tool you have selected stays selected. So I'm going to drop points until I give it something else to do. So if I want to grab a point to move it, I'm still going to have my point tool dropping points everywhere. So a couple habits to get into and a couple things to watch out for. And you're going to see me mess up on this too, because I tend to forget this. You got to go back and click on your pointer. And see, now I'm not clicking everywhere. I'm not dropping points. We can grab these. We can move these. These points aren't defined anywhere. And you may notice over here on the left, this toolbar is keeping a list of everything we're doing. And you can close this if this starts to get obnoxious. We're not really going to use it for anything, but it shows up by default. If you go under View, that was the algebra. So I may leave it on just so I have a record of what we've been creating, except we don't need 20-something points. So here's a couple habits to get in. When we click on a tool to grab something, either click back on the pointer, or if you hit Escape. So if I'm on the pointer, if I hit Escape, it sends me back to the cursor, so I'm no longer doing whatever tool it is I had out. So Escape is a common tool you want to get used to. And Control-Z will undo. So if you hold down Control-Z and undo, you can kind of take yourself back in time. So this is me hitting Control-Z, Control-Z, Control-Z. Very nice tool, because if you accidentally click something, create something, you can get rid of it. All right, so we had points, and we made some points. We have a line tool, so we can pick a line, which if you hover your cursor over, it'll tell you what you need for that. Line is defined by 2 points. You can click on points you have, or it'll drop 2 more. That's what this tool's looking for. Now, like I said, either hit Escape to turn it off, or click on the cursor, because now if I click on anything, it's going to want to keep creating lines. And that's fine. So I'm going to hit Escape. Now I'm not clicking lines anymore, and I can move these around. So your cursor, you can just click and drag, adjust your points. If you click and drag in the space of your canvas, you can drag the whole thing around, and your scroll wheel, if you have a mouse with a scroll wheel, will zoom in and out. We're not going to need to zoom in and out too much, but moving the canvas is nice if we want to keep our projects centered in case we start drifting one way or another. Under the line tool, we can also do a segment. So I can do a segment from B to A. If I want to keep doing more segments, I can keep it on. And now I've just made myself a whole triangle. Now, we end up a lot of times with redundant lines when we do these projects, where I have a triangle here, but now I have this full line spanning through my segment just going everywhere. And maybe I don't want that anymore. So here's what you can do. Get your cursor, or hit Escape. Now, if I click on this line, I don't want to necessarily delete it. We could delete it. We could just delete the line and everything's fine. I'm going to hit Control-Z, bring it back. Now, a lot of things that we're going to build are based on the previous shapes. Maybe my point is the intersection of 2 lines. I want the point, but not the lines. Deleting it, you'll lose everything that's attached to it. So the other way to get rid of it is if we click on it. If you right-click, you'll see Show Object. What that means is we can have it not show up, but it's not deleted. So there it goes. And so now I have this triangle that I can move around. Okay, I'm going to drag my canvas over just a little bit. Okay, now another tool on here. So we have lines, segments, rays. We're going to do some stuff with rays here in a second. And we can build all of our other line tools based on what we need. And there's a polygon tool. So let's try this one. So we'll start dropping us points. And to finish our polygon, I'm going to try to make a triangle. Just click back to the one you started with. And now we have our polygon. Get my cursor back out. And you can move it around. Okay, so one of the common things, one of the first things I like to do is explore the triangle a little bit. We can measure anything we want on our triangle. So I can take this icon right here. This one is the measuring tool, you could say. So if I want to measure an angle, now if you hover over it, it'll tell you select 3 points or 2 lines. So we'll see if we can do it either way. So if I go point, 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 it's going to measure the point in the middle. Now, I had a hunch this was going to happen. The order of the points matters. I went angle FGH, so it thinks I'm going around this direction. That's really not what I wanted, is it? So I'm going to hit escape. We didn't want it that way. Let me grab it again. This time, let's go HGF. And there it is. We got that angle measured. So if we keep the pattern going, we got that one. Keep the pattern going, we got that one. Hit escape. So we turned off our angle measurer, and I can move these little measuring units over if I want to get a better look at them. And so now no matter what I do to my triangle, these measurements are dynamic. They're going to change with what I'm doing. And we can also pull down from this measure tool right here, distance, so I can get the length of all these sides. And the same thing's going to happen. If I move it around, the lengths go with me. Now, we all know if we add up the angles to a triangle, we get 180. Well, let's do a little test. We want to know if that's always true, and then if we move our triangle, that should hold at 180. So do you see down here on this input right here, or this input spot, we can type in a command based on our values. So I want to type in angle A plus angle beta plus angle, and that's the little angle gamma right there. Here's what I can do. So down on my input, I have this button right here to give me all my objects. So I've got angle alpha, and I want to add to it angle beta, and I want to add to that angle gamma right there. So if I hit enter, you'll see, and this is one reason why I kept the algebra thing open, when I hit enter, you're going to see it pop up here. It gives me this, angle this, and it says it's 180. But I don't want it stuck over here. I want to get something out here on the canvas I can see that looks a little better. We can add some text to this canvas. So if I go over to this tool, right here, there is our text tool. So if I plop somewhere. So what I want to say is I want to say, what are our angles named? We have G, F, and H. So I want to say the measure of, I think I got an angle symbol in here. I had it just a second ago. Oh, but there it goes. There it goes. Measure of angle F plus measure of angle G plus measure of angle H equals, let's put some spaces in there. So I might space these out too. That looks a little better. So this text is just going to be static. So it's going to say measure F plus measure G plus measure of angle H equals, and let's stick our objects in there. We have object A, alpha, plus object B, and you can see down here what the preview is showing. So here's the difference. These symbols are just like text. I'm just picking symbols to use. But when I pick an object, it's telling me something from over here. it's going to give me the value of the actual thing. And then my other angle was gamma, and I'm going to say that equals that guy. So equals 180. And this looks just right. Ta-da! So no matter what I do, these angles should change. Oh, you know what? I didn't get these in the right place, did I? F is actually beta. I got these backwards. We could tweak that. F was there we go. F was beta. G was alpha. Is that better? F is the one that's 71. G, and then the angle H. Okay, that's better. So now if I grab any of these points and I change the angles, you can see them change on the shape. You can see them change right here. And that sum holds at 180. Awesome. All right, I'm going to save this, and we're going to get a clean slate. So if you want to save it, keep it for later. File. We're going to save it as, I'm just going to throw them on my desktop. We're going to call it just basic triangle. So we'll leave that alone. Okay, now I'm going to get a new one. So let's get a new one. So now we've got a new blank slate. And I might mention this too. If you noticed, add an extra window. If you notice, the text does show up rather small, these labels on everything. If you want, you can go to Options, Label, Font Size, and you can bump it up a notch or two. I think the default is actually 12, and I've already bumped it up one notch. Let me bump it up another one. That might make things a little bit easier to see as we go. So under Options, we can change the font size. Now this labeling, you can leave it at automatic, and if you notice, every time I made a point, a line, it automatically named it. You can have it turn that off. No new objects. Don't slap those labels and everything. I know Dr. Hyatt, it drives him crazy seeing all those labels, and I know he turns it off. I'm going to leave it on for us just because a lot of things we're going to do, I want to be able to talk about what we have and what it's named, you know, and how to relate them. So I'm just going to leave it on automatic. Okay, I've got this other page, and I think I'm going to close this one. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is I want to see if we can just do a perpendicular bisector of a segment. So I'm just going to put some text. So let's see if we can do the perpendicular bisector. So very common compass and straight edge construction. So we're going to start out, let's get a segment. So I'm going to go to my line tool and grab a segment. And just get a segment A to B, just somewhere about in the middle, somewhere reasonable width so we can get a bisector of it. Now, if you remember doing these with a compass and straight edge, your compass, you would stick one of the points on A, and you would have the pencil tip end on B, and you can spin it around and draw an arc. You could do a whole circle if you wanted. We're going to do a similar thing if we had a, I guess you could say we have a digital compass. That's what our circle basically is. Our circle is basically us using the compass tool to sketch arcs and circles. Let's do a circle with a center and a point. This is probably the most common one on this that we're going to use. The compass tool is kind of nice. It lets you select a width, and you can put your circle anywhere you want. So this is, imagine if you opened up your compass tool, if you opened up that little angle on it to whatever radius you wanted, and then you lifted it up and set it somewhere else, you would in theory be drawing the exact same radius of an arc. So this is a similar thing. But we're not going to be moving anywhere. Let's just get this first option. So if we hover over it, just to be sure we're doing, select a center point and then a point on the circle. So if I click A, now if I go over somewhere else, this is a point on my circle. Now I still have my circle tool active. So to get the perpendicular bisector, we want to do a circle centered at A. Goes out to B, so it has radius this length. We just want to do the opposite. Let's make a circle from B. Goes out to A. Now my caution too, when you're doing constructions like these, be very careful you're clicking on the right thing. If I go out to like right here with my cursor, and you see how it looks like my circle is right there on A? So I was very careful. Now, I didn't actually attach my circle to A unless I went out with this point and clicked on it. So what I just did was wrong, and I'm going to hit Control-Z here in a second and clear it. But I just wanted to show you this circle, yeah, it's not hooked to this. I want this circle centered on B and of radius to match this segment, which I didn't do. So if I hit Control-Z, or you can just go to Edit, Undo. Oh, that's me moving it. That's me drawing it. Now it's gone. What you have to do, center on B, and don't just bring your cursor and line it up. We're going to actually click on the point. So that locked it in. That defined that circle to be attached to those two points. And that's critical for making all of the things that we're going to do work. Okay, now if we build a segment that goes from this intersection to this intersection, that is going to split this right in two. So I need another tool. I need to drop a point. I want to put a point at each of these. So if I go over to the point tool, let's drop it down. There's one for intersect. So if I get it right on these, you can see it grabbed both circles. We got that one. Get both circles, we got that one. Now I can go back to my segment tool and go from C to D. And there we go. There's my midpoint. So I can go back to my point and just select, oh, let's do intersection. Get the intersection of these. And we got it. Now, if we want to test this out, we could do a couple things. We could get our angle, the measuring tool right here, and measure an angle. If I measure from here, you know what? I'm going to be doing it backwards. I'm going to hit escape. Measure tool. Let's go this way around. Now, did you see that? I think this is pretty cool. It has the measure indicated of what I'm measuring. Now, if it's a right angle, it knows it. And it even drew my angle indicator as a box. So it's perpendicular. Now, let's test if it's a bisector. If I go up here to my measuring tool and I grab the distance, now here's the problem. It's going to be try measuring this entire segment. I just want to measure each piece. What we're going to need to do is we can select 2 points. So we have a couple options. I can either grab the segment tool and make another one from here to here and another one from here to here, but I would rather not have to get more lines on this thing. So let's get this. Let's try it this way. So click on A, click on B, or that's point E. So from A to E, that's our distance. I still have my distance tool activated. So let's go from E to B, and it tells me the width, the length of that one. If I get my cursor, I can move these a little bit. And now, since everything that we built was attached and defined, the circle and the line, these stay the same, and our angle stays at 90, no matter how we draw these. All right, let's see if we could do an angle bisector. I'm going to leave this open. I'm just going to get a new document, a new page, new window. I'm going to make it full size. Get my text. We'll put a title on this thing. So we're going to do an angle bisector. Now, I want my title to be a little bit bigger. It might have looked a little better on this one too if this was a little bit bigger. If you right-click on it, you have properties, and this works on any point line, and I can change the text. We could change it, well, let's make it bold. We'll make it blue. Oh, there we All right, that looks a little bit better. I like that. That's a better title for it. That looks good. Okay, so we go this one, angle bisector. I want to do the same thing on this one. And I think I need to change my font size to 16. And I'm going to go Save Settings. So if I ever make a new window, it'll have the bigger font for us. So angle bisector, let's do the same to that. I'm going to change the properties. Let's make it large, bold, and purple looks nice. Okay. Okay, so we need to draw ourselves an angle, and then we're going to bisect the angle, and we're going to use these compass straight edge style tools where we're just doing segments and lines. So I'm going to go to my line tool, and there's an option for a ray. So if I select that, I'm just going to click a point, another point, and there's my ray. Now let's click on point A. You notice the ray tool is still active, and then just open it up. Now about yay, just so it looks reasonable to work with on the page. So let's get our cursor. Now if I need to, I can adjust these. I can bring this down a little bit. Just open it up a little bit more. But I like that. That'll give us some space to work with. So we have our array. Now we want to bisect this thing. Now one option that might come to mind is just grab the ray tool, click on A, and draw one out in the middle. The problem is that's just us eyeballing it, and as soon as I move any of these, that's not going to move with it. We need to get it built based on what we have. So here's how we bisect an angle. I'm going to need my compass or my circle tool. So we just want to do with a circle with a center through a point. Now let's start it at point A, and let's just go out. Oh, yeah, we can use. I don't want to use point B. I'm going to hit escape. I want another point. Just because this point B is on my ray and it's part of defining my ray, I'm going to do my construction. I don't want to use these 2 points. So let's put another point on there. Just on here in this ray somewhere. Okay. Now let's go back to the circle tool. So go to A, and I'm going to go out. And this time we can attach it to D. That way, this stuff I'm going to build, I don't want it hooked to these points because these are part of defining the ray. I don't want to mess with those and have anything attached to those. Okay, so we have this circle. So here's what we're going to do. Basically, we're going to draw a chord of the circle from point D to this intersection, bisect that, and then that will be our angle bisector. So I need to get my intersection tool, get a point right there. And if you notice, it likes to do intersection points a little smaller, a little faded looking. And most of the time that's not a problem because this point's not going to be significant to us here in a second. So that doesn't bother me. But we could right click on the point if we wanted. We could go to the properties and we can make it look fancy if we wanted. But we're not going to need to. Now let's drop a segment. So from our line options, from E to D. So no matter where I put this point D, I have this segment right here, and it is equal. Both E and D are the same distance from A because they're both a radius of the circle. So I need to bisect this line segment D. Now we could do it the way we did it a minute ago. We're going to cheat just a little bit. We're going to cheat for our perpendicular bisector because there's an option for it. So we had our points, lines, and then some of these tools right here. Perpendicular bisector right there. This is basically a shortcut for all that work we just did. So I'm just going to click on the line, and it did it for us. So if I go back to my cursor, because I don't want to be clicking that anymore, now no matter where I move my C or my B, that's going to stay perfectly right in the middle. Now I wish this looked a little better. I don't want this big old circle and all this other junk that I don't need anymore. Now this is what I was mentioning earlier. I don't want to grab this circle and delete it because everything based off of it will be gone. Let's just hide it. So if you click on it, well, if you right click, you can toggle show object. Now here's another way to do it. You can click on it. Now if you go to edit, you'll see the option for hide show. It's Control G. So That might be the only other keyboard shortcut I'm going to use, but Control-Z for undoing, Control-G for hiding. Just because I don't want to have to right-click over and over. So if I hit Control, hold Control, and hit G on my keyboard, that's gone. E's gone. Now it's not gone. You'll see they still exist over here. They're just hidden. I'm just not looking at them because I don't want them in my screen cluttering this up. You know what? I wish I had a ray going through this. So I'm going to see if I can take my ray tool from A and put it right there. Now is this point, yeah, and this point is attached to that line. So if I move these, it's going to stay defined on this line. But I don't want this line anymore. So if we highlight it, hold Control G, it's gone, but the ray is still there. We just slipped that line out from underneath it. Now I'm going to use my measuring tool, and let's measure these angles. So I can click on a line and a line. This is the alternate way instead of 2 points, but again, you saw what I just did again. Let's hit Control Z. I better do it the other way around. There we go. And then this one, and there we go. Now it's a little cluttered down there. Hit Escape, turn off your tool. If we open these up, and these better be the same. Now you can move these over a little bit. There. And our angles of each piece stay the same when we have our angle bisector. Very good. All right, I'm going to save this one. I'm going to shut down this video. It's gone long enough, and we're going to pick up the trail in a new piece.